Greetings to all my tacticians! This video is about a journey of truth. A truth I am currently undertaking to discover a particular truth that has thus far eluded me, escaped me, and has not been a concern of mine for many years until now, when the first question came to mind. I will not tell you what that truth is until I have discovered it. Nor will I tell you what my truth journey is about, until I find out the truth. While I undergo this journey, I will share with you over this 3 to 4 part videos of this series some stories. My first 2 parts will cover personal stories about my Pokemon and myself. The third part will cover something else, part of the truth I am hoping to uncover. And the final part will reveal the truth when I have finally discovered it. Now then, on with my first stories. I'm going to share with you 5 stories about my Pokemon adventures in both Hoenn and Alola. This Reshiram has met some wonderful and awesome Pokemon. Pokemon he is happy to have met and have on his team, at his side, or even just chill with him when he's feeling lazy. But before I get to Alola, I'll talk about Hoenn. During my earlier days in Hoenn, in the Alpha Sapphire days, I was told about chain searching for shiny Pokemon. And at first I was kind of skeptic. I didn't really think much of it at the time. But I really wanted to try and get a shiny Pokemon because I loved my Pokemon. And there were a few I really wanted as a shiny. One of those was the Rapidash and Ponyta line. So, after deciding the worst that could happen was me wasting my time, I asked Latias to fly me over to Mount Chimney, and from there, I began my search for shiny Ponyta. Now, at first I was unsuccessful. I found a few interesting Ponyta, but none of them really wanted to be with me. A few looked interesting, but I didn't really want them. After all, I was looking for a shiny Ponyta, especially for competitive battles. Well, I didn't find one, and I was at it for roughly a day. It was around midnight when I was getting too tired and my hat was covered in ash from the volcano. I decided to scan for one last Ponyta before calling it a night. Then, just as I picked up the Ponyta, I saw that it only had 1 star, a hidden ability, and that was about it. I figured it wasn't going to be very special after all. I've seen enough good Ponyta come and go. What would make this Ponyta special? Well, I decided I'd throw caution to the wind and try and see what it was. I entered the grass, and there she was. Blue flames lighting up my sight. A shiny Ponyta. When our eyes met, I knew she wanted to join me. She had been waiting patiently for me, and when I threw the quick ball for her, she hopped right in without a single fuss or struggle. She went into the ball happily, and from that moment on, we were close pals. She's got a lax nature, and only 1 good IV, but her hidden ability was nice. She was far from competitive capable, but I did not care. She was the cutest Ponyta, and she was just the cutest the way she was. And even though she rarely battles, preferring to sit with me and even help me hatch eggs, I love her regardless. I even named her Julia, and she became my first shiny Pokemon on my journeys. I love her so much and treasure her so much that I keep an Everstone on her at all times, because I don't want her to change. And she's happy being a Ponyta. She doesn't want to change for me either. She knows I love her as she is, so she doesn't want to change how I feel about her. My second shiny is a bit of a sad story because I don't know this shiny very well. It was a Vulpix. During my attempts to breed a competitive Vulpix, whom I called Athena, I had a ton of what people call as rejects. Among them was a shiny Vulpix, but I didn't realize it because I was tired and ignored so many Vulpix as each one hatched, and I just wasn't paying attention. Eventually, Athena hatched, and she had 5 IVs and 1 0 IV, with a modest nature. Just the perfect Vulpix I was hoping to hatch. As for the others, her various brothers and sisters, well, I was an idiot at the time and figured other people would love them. So I wonder traded them, hoping people could train them or use them in their own Vulpix breeding endeavors. It was around Vulpix 57, or was it 67, I forget which number. I picked a Vulpix and wonder traded it. But when I noticed the orange coloring, I realized too late it was shiny. In a desperate attempt to stop the trade, I turned off the system, but it was too late. That Vulpix was long gone. In its place, an Aerodactyl, with 1 good IV, clearly just brought back to life from a fossil. To this day, I always wonder, what happened to that Vulpix? And I hope it's with a good trainer. My third story is a bit of a happier one. But it's a strange case for me, let me tell you. You see, I learned something after Julia joined my party and joined my team. I have weird luck when it comes to shiny Pokemon. When I don't want a shiny, when I don't care about the shiny, and when I am not looking for the shiny actively, is when my shiny chance skyrockets to 10 times what it normally is. Strange, huh? Well, I was breeding for a competitive Seviper one day, about 6 months before Sun and Moon were released. At the time, I was just trying to get a decent IV spread with adamant-natured Seviper. And the first 50 eggs were all pretty much terrible. None of the IV matched. None of the Sevipers were even close to viable. At most, they had maybe 2 IVs. 3 if you count one of them being special attack. But that's one thing. It was after egg 50 that something happened. It was on egg 51, the 3rd egg in the batch that I was hatching at the time with Julia. It was then Julia noticed that this particular egg was different. You see, it began hatching, but it hatched the moment after I looked at it to see how far along it was from hatching. Then, just as it hatched, a shiny Seviper popped out and looked up at me, and the first sight it saw was my surprised and shocked face. This male Seviper responded by turning its head in confusion as well. Now, I named this Seviper Enigma, because he was indeed an enigma. You see, the remaining 2 eggs that hatched were terrible IB spread Sevipers, like the rest. But Enigma, he had 4 perfect IVs to go with his adamant nature. His attack IV was around 27-28, not perfect, but it was respectable enough for me. Enigma was my second shiny competitive bred Pokemon, and he enjoys toying with his opponents, let me tell you, making them guess what he's gonna do, even surprising my own teammates by how skillfully he handles a battle using his tail. But to this day, that question lingers on in my mind every time I look at that Seviper. Why, out of all 53 Seviper eggs that I had been breeding, why did Enigma hatch for me as a shiny? Now remember, I wasn't looking for a shiny Seviper. I didn't care about the shiny Seviper. And I didn't want a shiny Seviper. I just wanted a competitively viable Seviper. But Enigma, he's a mystery to me. Because despite not me wanting him at first, despite not me wanting him at all, he hatched just for me. Yet no matter what I thought, no, I love him very much. And I treasure him just like every other Pokemon I have. Even kind of coils around me sometimes, but, it's hard for him to coil around a Reshiram. He likes to sit around on my head, but that's just me. Now comes my Alola stories. And the first shiny I ever found in Alola, Lucky. I believe it was after I made the Alolan Dune Squad team lineup vid, or maybe it was before. I forget. It was around that time. I was trying to make a sand team using Gigalith to set up the sandstorm. I still haven't finished, by the way. Well, before that happened, I needed 2 parents to breed for one. So off I went to find 2 Roggenrola parents. It was during my first SOS battle with Roggenrola. It was on the 38th chain, I believe. My Pheromosa and her name was Ophelia at the time. Lenoa wasn't properly trained yet. We were just kicking Roggenrola around trying to find a pair of viable parents. After she swept that 38th one away because it didn't have the correct ability and wasn't female, was when a new Roggenrola appeared. This time, it was purple instead of the usual brown, and I instantly knew it was shiny. Well, I was so shocked that Ophelia mistook my silence as a command to attack and proceeded to bounce up. It was too late to stop her, so all I could do was watch as she came down to finish off the Roggenrola appeared. But she missed. My Pheromosa seems to do that so many times. Both of them, Ophelia and Lenoa. They miss bounce when I need them both. But this time, I actually wanted her to miss, and I was happy she missed. I was so shocked and surprised that she missed, as was she. But it was the chance I needed to tell her to not attack that Roggenrola. You can guess what happened afterwards. That Roggenrola soon entered a Dusk Ball. I think he was happier knowing I caught him instead of having my Pheromosa accidentally bounce on him. I called him Lucky, but I wasn't lucky when it came to his nature. You see, he was a gentle nature. And for those of you who don't know, but gentle nature reduces defense while improves special defense. And for those of you who don't know, Gigalith is a very defensive Pokemon. So this nature absolutely killed his potential. Sort of. I mean, I think I can still use him in battle, but for now, Lucky just likes to sit and enjoy the peace and quiet of Poképelago, alongside some of my other competitive Pokemon members who, they don't want to battle as much. They prefer to just sit and, just laze about quietly. Now, moving on, I had 2 encounters with Shiny Execute while I was trying to find a Psychic Seed. And while I caught them, I gave them both to people who really wanted a shiny caught Execute, regardless of the IVs or their nature. Both of them were found within half an hour of each other, while I was trying to find that Psychic Seed. Seriously, I could not find that. It took me ages to find that Psychic Seed. But while I was searching for the Psychic Seed, I wasn't looking for a shiny Execute. I didn't care about shiny Execute. I didn't even want Execute. But I find 2 shiny Executes. I swear, my luck, that's just my luck. I don't understand it. I know that wasn't much of a story, but this one is. My final story involves a Dratini, a Dream Ball, and my luck once again showing itself. I was working on breeding for a Dream Ball Dratini. This was before the the 100 subscriber Dream Ball Dratini giveaway that I'm working on still. But before I could do that, the Dream Ball Dratini I had at the time was female, but it didn't have its hidden ability. So, while I was breeding for a male Dratini to have its Dream Ball, Julia noticed something again about the second egg in the first batch of the Dratini eggs I was hatching at the time. It wiggled mere moments after I looked at it. I thought nothing of it at the time, but after the first Dratini hatched, I checked the second Dratini egg again to see how far along it was. It was about to hatch, and you guessed it, just like Enigma, the egg began hatching right after I looked away and moved again. Right after that, a shiny Dratini popped out and looked at me, and he cooed happily upon seeing me. It's a cute little Dratini. Thus, Derek, the shiny Dream Ball Dratini with the sassy nature, was born. His nature makes him incapable of being very strong competitively, but he's still so cute, and I love him nonetheless as a Dratini, so just like Julia, I keep him as is. And he plays around sometimes with my other snake Pokemon, like Sylvester and Kristen, and even Coralina and Enigma, who are all snake Pokemon. Now, you may be asking yourself, Impy, why are you sharing these stories with us? This has nothing to do with your competitive matches. Well, I promise you there is a story, or there is a reason for everything I'm saying in these first two videos. But for now, this is merely my stories of my various shiny Pokemon encounters, how I met them, and what they are to me. In my next video, I'll tell you the stories of the effort and rewards of my various giveaway Pokemon. Until then, stay tuned, my fellow tacticians.